A young boy stands waiting outside the library at 7 a.m., determined to be the first one inside by the time it opens 2 hours later. Now, he had already visited the library before, but both times the book he had been looking for was checked out. And as the doors finally opened, he rushed inside. The book he had been looking for was the key to his dream of attending one of the only 2 universities in a country of 45 million people. It was a physics textbook in order to help him prepare for a national exam. Now, sadly, as he entered the library and scanned the shelves, there was no book to be found. And disappointment washed over him when he realized that nobody had returned that book in the 2 times that he visited, and in the 3rd time that he visited, and he would have to come yet another time before he could get it. Now, this was the story of my father growing up in 1980s Ethiopia. Now, when I was growing up, my parents shared many stories with me about how it was like for them to grow up. And amidst the various challenges they faced, the stories they shared about the struggles they faced in accessing quality education throughout their lives really stuck with me. So today, I want to discuss a crisis that is often overlooked. The fact that children all over the world do not have access to a basic education. Now, I'm sure we were all told as we were growing up to finish everything on our plates because there are kids out there who cherish what we take for granted. Now, how many times were we told then to read every last page of a book and value it because there are kids out there who can't do the same? The number of children in the world who do not have access to education is overwhelming. Studies show that around 250 million children worldwide do not have access to education. This is 1 in every 5 students, and in some parts of Africa and South Asia, this is 1 in every 2 students. And now these are not just numbers, these are people's lives, these are people's futures. These children face an incredible amount of chaos in their lives, whether that's from a troubling political atmosphere to a lack of food, safety, and even basic health care. I believe the root of these problems can be traced back to education and starvation, but not a hunger for food, the starvation of the mind. And I believe that it's education in the long run that can solve these problems. So there is an ancient Ethiopian saying that follows, "Dirbiyadır ambasayasır," which loosely translates to, if spider webs were to come together, they could tie up a lion. And now what this proverb teaches us is that if everyone were to do their part, the impossible becomes achievable. So last year, I started an initiative with 2 of my friends called Girls Growing Education, which aims to bring educational resources to countries like Ethiopia and other countries throughout the developing world. We are doing this by bringing an EduTech device that allows educational resources to be accessed without the need for an internet connection. Now, this device, as I mentioned, allows other devices to connect to it offline without the need for an internet connection, and allows students to learn by themselves without the need of a teacher and explore concepts beyond the classroom. Now, in order to pilot this device, and in order to connect with the students we are supporting, last summer, we ran a 2-week summer camp in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia for 40 wonderful students. Now, I can say many wonderful things about this summer camp, but for the sake of time, I will only mention a few of the highlights. One of the most extraordinary things that took place during this camp was when I taught the children a lesson on ethics. Now, I was initially hesitant to teach this because I didn't know whether they would grasp concepts such as utilitarianism, deontology, and virtue ethics. But to my astonishment, not only did they grasp them, but they engaged with the material fully, immediately. So then I asked them a couple of ethical questions, and they discussed them intently and provided truly thought-provoking responses. But what amazed me even more was the fact that these kids began to continue to discuss these concepts and the answers to these questions outside of camp hours. And some of them even brought this to their parents and their families at home and reported back to us the next day, excited about what they had learned and what they had discussed. One girl even approached me after hours one day and asked for a list of even more additional questions so that she could explore them further. Now, another highlight of the camp was when I taught these kids a few engineering concepts and gave them some general instructions, and they created bridges that you can see right here. And now, these bridges were done with a lack of that many materials, just straws and a bit of tape and scissors. And the results they produced were remarkable and showed a level of craftsmanship that was incredible considering their background. Now this young girl you see in the corner, her name is Bethlehem. She is about 5 or 6 years old. And being one of the camp cooks, she was not officially enrolled in the camp. But this did not stop her from showing up consistently every single morning, being one of the first people to arrive and sitting in on our lessons intently and absorbing every word. Now, though we do not know the full extent of her comprehension, one thing that is unmistakable is her hunger for knowledge. Okay, so now here are 2 things that I want to leave you with from my experience. Number 1 being the importance of raising awareness. When my parents used to tell me to value my food and eat every last bit on my plate, I never really understood what the purpose of this is. I mean, sure, like there are kids around the world who don't have access to doing the same, but what will my last few bites really do in solving that problem overall? But now I realize that the reason they were saying this was to spread awareness on the issue. And so I encourage us all to do the same. And whenever we get opportunities, to spread awareness on topics like the starvation of the mind that are prevalent within our society. The second thing I want to leave you with is to never underestimate what you can do if each of us does our part. I know I certainly did at first, but then I went on to achieve something I never believed I'd be able to do, and touch the lives of so many more students than I'd ever imagined in such a short time. And so finally, I want you all to remember what spiderwebs can do if they come together. Thank you.